We should have a couple. We should have a couple more zoning commission folks that will show up. We're missing a couple of them, but we do have a quorum. My name is Jeff Corbel. I'm chair of the Worth County Zoning Commission. Seated next to me here, I've got Justin Faber and David Quisley. As I said, the other members, hopefully they'll be here in the next couple of minutes. Since this is an official meeting of the Zoning Commission, we have to first officially start our meeting, and then we'll open it for public comment. I want to also advise you that this meeting is being broadcast via Zoom, which is this funny looking thing here in front of us. So it is being recorded, so folks can watch and listen and have it available. So we have determined a quorum. The minutes and agenda having been provided. Any comment on the minutes or agenda?
I move to approve the agenda and minutes as printed. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes and agenda are approved. So the meeting for tonight, our purpose tonight rather, is to hear your comments and concerns about the proposed zoning assignments across the unincorporated areas of the county that have not yet been zoned. In short, the plan would be to assign everything under the Ag A1 zone designation, except those parcels which are clearly not used for ag, such as those that are known to be used for commercial or industrial use, like scrap yards, gravel pits, campgrounds, etc. There are copies of the list of properties that are posted on the wall out there, and a letter was sent out to all the landowners. I understand a lot of people didn't get that letter until yesterday or today. Is there anybody that got the letter before yesterday or today? I need to find out what happened with that, because the letters went to the company that was supposed to process them on March 8th. They told us it was going to be 5 or 6 days to process them and mail them. And they sent me an email saying that the letters went to the post office on March 16th. But I understand a number of people didn't get them until just very recently. Yesterday, today. Okay.
Who you're working with is supposed to be doing this for you.
I don't remember the name of the company. It's a bulk mailing company. They do this, that's their business. So I'll have to get in touch with them.
Zoning or anything other than just publication, right?
I'm sorry?
They aren't gonna help with the zoning part. It's
No,
just
no.
publication.
All they do is the mailing. It's just rather than have the county staff stuff 1,400 envelopes, we hired a company. That's their business.
I'm gonna look for somebody else.
I think we'll have to use somebody else next time, yeah. And there also was the public notice that was published in the paper last week about the meeting as well. So the commission will consider your comments to determine what changes we feel are necessary to our plans. And I want to remind everyone that our role as zoning commission is one of purely recommendations. Whatever we determine ultimately will be provided to the county supervisors as our recommendations for their decision. Nothing will change unless they decide to change it. We do want to hear from everyone present tonight that wishes to speak. If you disagree with the proposed zone assignments, please be specific and explain why you think the proposed zone assignment is not appropriate for a particular parcel or a set of parcels. The commission will consider all the comments presented, and if you want to leave things in writing with us, you're welcome to do that as well. We want to hear first from any landowner that disagrees with the proposed assignment to their land. Then we'll provide time for other interested persons to speak. To ensure that everyone has a chance to speak in a timely manner, we've discussed and decided on an initial 5-minute time limit per person. You cannot share or grant your time to extend someone else's speaking time. We do have a timer up here. We'll set so that you'll hear the timer go off when you get 30 seconds left on the 5 minutes. The commission members may have questions on what you're saying, but we'll try to let you finish before we ask. And our questions and your response don't count on your 5-minute time. I should also note that you can certainly ask us questions as well as part of your comment time. We ask that each person speaking do so from the podium up here so that it can be picked up on the online recording. Begin by introducing yourself by first and last name and where you live. Please also specify the parcel by parcel number or address that you're speaking about. If you're speaking on behalf of a group or a business, please let us know that as well. I would also ask that everyone respect the time and opinions of everyone else. We want this to be as fair and equitable as possible, so please refrain from interrupting others or engaging in conversations while others are speaking. Also, audible reactions such as cheers or groans or applause are inappropriate. I would also expect that no one would verbally attack what someone else may say. You may disagree and say so, but please keep your comments professional and not personal. We'll now open the meeting for public comment. Please raise your hand if you desire to speak and proceed to the podium when called upon.
I'm Bill Lane. I live in Joyce. I don't know what parcel. I would ask that.
What's the address?
4061 Apple Avenue.
Okay,
I would ask that this meeting be postponed. I have no idea what this is, and I apologize for that. But I received this letter 2 hours ago. Comments I was supposed to send for written comments was yesterday at 4 o'clock. I have no time to do my due diligence to even know what this is about.
well, there was notice in the paper, public notice for the meeting, which is what the,
I'm sorry, I did not read the paper, but I received a letter that doesn't have a postmark on it today. And you spoke about being fair and equitable. I would prefer that we postpone this meeting so we could actually see what the pros and cons are to this meeting.
okay? And you said you do or do not understand what the meeting is for.
I do not understand everything I should know about zoning. So I don't know why you want to change it. I don't know what the benefits are to me.
Okay,
I don't know anything about it, so I should do my own study.
okay, so let me backfill some of the information for you, and we will have to consider what we do because of the letters just being received yesterday and today. So there was a public meeting last month that the zoning commission held, and all of the zoning commission meetings are public meetings that we held last month that described the fact that the county supervisors had asked us to look into extending zoning countywide as a result of the draft wind ordinance that was proposed last year. The supervisors have not acted on the wind ordinance yet. In January, they decided that if they were to go forward with the wind ordinance, with only 3 of the townships in the county being zoned, that the wind ordinance would probably only apply to those 3 townships as opposed to countywide, as was recommended. So they asked us to look into countywide zoning. So the zoning commission held a series of meetings, including a public hearing last month, to discuss the concept of extending zoning to the rest of the townships, which, by the way, is called for in the county development plan. The zoning commission voted to do that. The next step in doing that is to come up with recommended zoning assignments. All of the land would have to have a zone designation. Our plan, as articulated in the letter that we were supposed to have gotten a week ago, and what was described in the paper, says that our intent would be to apply the Ag A1 zone countywide, except for certain areas that are listed as the enclosure to the letter. Those properties very clearly are not agricultural use properties. They're actively being used for these other purposes. And so the purpose of the meeting tonight is to discuss those proposed zone assignments. we'll consider everybody's comments, and then we have another zoning commission meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, where we'll discuss and consider these comments. So just to bring you up to speed on where everything is.
And I wasn't normally gonna speak, but I guess I got the letter tonight too. Okay. I got the letter just before I came here too, but I sort of knew about the meeting.
Yep.
I do agree, people do need the chance to read the letter, even though it was on the paper, in that aspect. But I do, and you originally got the list from us. I don't know, we didn't double check, but there are still a lot more commercial industrial properties that are listed on that sheet. So I wish we would have had an opportunity to verify that sheet was correct, because there are a few more.
Yeah, it was put together by NICOG. They had gone through
Yeah.
everything.
And so, once again, if we do that again, there are some, and I think a lot of people here sort of know that, and you were concerned. But I guess my question is, it's automatically, if it's not on that sheet, which is commercial industrial, it's automatically ag out in the country. So if you got a query in, it's commercial, it's industrial, whatever you want to be, and they're moving into ag land, okay? At a certain point, the assessor's office makes it commercial because they're moving into that land, even though it was ag. Do we need to come to you as permission to do that?
Well-
That's a huge question, because no matter what, as an assessor, we value, land. It doesn't matter zoning. It doesn't matter zoning to us whatsoever. We
Right.
value that property as the principal use. So no matter what, whether you want to say that's commercial or not, we will value that as commercial once they go into that. So I guess that's my clarification.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, and we highlighted that in the public meeting last week or last month as well, that zoning applies to the rules and management of development on the property. The tax levies is based on assessors, the tax levels based on the assessor's office designation of how the land is being used. Principal use. What we did when we looked at the list that NICOG had originally put together for us is, and some of the guidance that we had given them, is when we look at a parcel, we have a lot of parcels, particularly in these areas where we're doing gravel pits and so on. There's parcels where it's split use. Some of it's gravel pit, some of it's clearly being farmed. And we took the approach, and NICOG took the approach of predominant use, not necessarily primary use from your perspective, but predominant use based on majority use of the land. So if 2/3 or 3/4 of that parcel is being used for agriculture and 1/4 of it is being mined, we just left it as ag and vice versa.
Okay.
And if people are here and saying, hey, I think my parcel should be zoned as XYZ, not something that we have described, that's, we want to hear those things tonight as well.
Okay, well, I kind of agree with him that as long as no real decisions are made, but I'm David Falk, live in St. Ansgar, chairman of the board of L.R. Falk Construction Company. We have sand pits and rock quarries in Worth County.
Yep.
And we have some sand pits and quarries that aren't even listed on here. And your thought about what a primary is, it's only 1/3 aggregate producing and 2/3 farmland. The way it reads, we can't expand because it's farmland.
Right, and we were hoping that you would bring those things up.
Okay.
We had a lot of discussion about that. Our belief was, and what we had concluded is when we're looking at the map, particularly if we're looking at GIS, and we can see 1/3 of that parcel is being actively mined, we don't know that the aggregate that you're looking for extends under the 2/3 of the cropland that is in that parcel that you intend to go there. We can't deduce intent.
But for
So-
your information, if a gravel pit or rock quarry is started, it started where there's a lot of deposit. we don't open it to go in there for a year or two, we open it, we're looking at 20, 30 years.
Right, so on those parcels, it would be perfectly acceptable for you to say, hey, we think you guys missed X number of parcels. These XYZ parcels should be zoned as heavy industrial and be done with it in the future, so you could
So
extend.
we'll have time in the future to get those
Yes.
to you.
Yep.
And NIACOG, I don't know where NIACOG came, but Cindy has all this stuff in her office, you probably could have. talked
Yeah,
to
it
them.
started from the assessor's data. That's what NICOG started with, was the assessor's
Yeah,
data.
they messed up and the publication people messed up, so we aren't starting very well.
Right. So would you have, not necessarily tonight, but would you be able to provide us a list of additional parcels that
Oh, yeah,
should be? That,
One of the things that we talked about, Dave, was you don't necessarily know, like Harris's Quarry is basically done, you know, and you look at that and you say, well, are they going any further? Maybe, maybe not. And you just don't know by looking at it. If you put an industrial on it, and you want to take it back to farming, that's a lot more of a problem than if the other way around. So it's just one of those deals of, let us know the parcels that you want to have zoned other than A1, then we can make that adjustment prior to. And even after the fact, that's the whole object of the zoning, is any parcel can be changed. Just a matter of going through the permit process.
Yeah, but we've had going in Mitchell County for quite some time,
Yeah,
and it takes a while, you gotta go to the meeting, you gotta have the hearing,
right.
do all those things, so that's why I came tonight, because some aren't even listed. And if tonight was the last chance to list them, that wouldn't be good. If we have more time to list it, that's fine, I have no complaint.
I'm sorry.
Right, we're just gonna give
I got to come through again, I'm sorry. Because even if it's zoned one way, we assess it differently. So if you don't have it zoned as commercial or industrial, but we have, by the assessment of the principal use of that property, we will still classify it in taxes, and values will go out as
Right.
commercial and
Correct.
industrial.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you guys do with zoning.
Correct.
So zoning is sort of separate from what the assessor's office does. They're just trying to get it right, so when people come in, they know what's zoned.
well, and for
And so it's
development,
us working together saying, hey, or even it's me saying, guess what? You're moving to 40 acres, you're past 25%. So I'm gonna class you now as commercial industrial, me letting you know, guess what? This is what we're doing. Zoning can do what you want to do, but this is how we're classifying the land.
Right.
So it's gonna be communication between both of us.
And every year we have to report to her how ours changes.
yeah, but from our perspective, if a parcel is zoned as heavy industrial for the purposes of mining, we don't care if it's a tenth of the parcel, if it's none of the parcel, or if it's 100% of the parcel being actively mined at any given time. We just know that the intent of development on that land is for heavy industrial. Now, if it is currently being farmed, you can continue to farm it, even though it has been zoned as heavy industrial, because that's grandfathered in as the non-conforming activity that was there when the zone was assigned.
And in that aspect right there, he may zone it as industrial commercial, but until you get to 25% of that 40 acres, you're still gonna have ag on that as a classification.
Yeah.
But once you get that, so eventually we're gonna get to the same thing, but it may be different for a little bit, right?
Can you explain why the need for the zoning? I mean, just the highlights of it
Zoning in general,
for Worth County?
well, the county, let me start by saying the county has a county-wide development plan that describes what kind of activities the county wants to have in the county and in different areas. And that plan that was approved by the supervisors in 2006 called for countywide zoning at the time, because the only way that you can actually, if you want to say, we want to have this kind of development here and this kind of development here, the only way you can manage that is if you have a zoning ordinance. at the time, the county said, we're just gonna keep zoning applying to the 3 townships that the interstate runs through. Since that time, there's been a lot of development in the county, particularly the wind turbine development, which happens without any rules whatsoever right now in 3/4 of the county. And so last year, the supervisors asked us to look into that. We provided them a recommended wind ordinance that would put rules in place around commercial wind development. But the supervisors are saying, well, we only have zoning in 3 of the townships, so we can't have a county-wide wind turbine ordinance managing one and not managing development of another kind. So if we're going to manage development, we have to have zoning across all of the county, not just 1/4 of it. And again, it's really, the intent of zoning is just to put rules in place to make certain that there are steps to ensure that development happens in a in a manner that the county wants to happen. Now, as regards to ag, and hopefully, I believe it was in the letter, the state of Iowa and the county zoning ordinance provides a ag exemption. Ag exemption by state law says if you're farming your property, if you have a farm operation on your property, and you want to perform some form of development that's in direct support of your production of agriculture, you want to build your house, you want to build a barn, you want to build a grain bin, you want to build a machine shed for your equipment. If those things are in support of your production of agriculture, they are exempt from zoning. So even though the zoning ordinance would apply countywide, and there's rules in the ordinance that describe dwellings and machine sheds and things of that nature, and setbacks and process, again.
So if I wanted to start a small mechanic shop with something on my acreage, would I have to apply for a permit?
Yeah, so a mechanic shop, we'd have to look into the details of it. But home-based businesses in the ag zone, they're also, depending on what the nature of it is, there's provisions for commercial designations. We have a number of properties right now that they're running agriculture, commercial businesses on their property, where they've got a parcel where you're more familiar with the place than I am, the one over here by Manly we just discussed in over by Manly.
Talking like Osmus.
Oh, Osmus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where, yeah, and that's the whole object is that you put the business in wherever you're placing the business within the county, it's not disruptive to the neighbors. I've been on the Board of Adjustments for, 9 years, and, a lot of the things that come in, I can only remember one thing that was really contested, and that was a campgrounds. Other than that, it's basically been, apply for the permit. If people aren't interested in trying to stop you from having a mechanic shop, if you're a good neighbor, chances are, the one I thought might be a problem is the dog pound out by Sioux there. I thought the neighbors might not like that, but nobody seemed to care. Carolyn put, the dogs in. So that's the object of the zoning is to just place disruptive businesses in spots that they're not disruptive.
There was clarification on that about building a house on your ag. It has to be within 250.
Well, the primary residence is what I was referring to.
Yeah.
So if you're a farmer on your property, you can build a primary residence. Your primary residence is exempt because it's for you, for the production of agriculture. What Colleen is referring to is if you wanted to put a secondary dwelling on the property, then there's separate rules
For the
associated with
kids,
that. I'm sorry?
for the kids.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, what I was asking David about was to describe the property that has that, would you say it was?
We got Osmus, you got.
Well,
Dietrich.
Osmus and Dietrich are both commercial ag enterprises.
Right, and so where they have, and again, I
They're
don't know
both
what the,
listed as exceptions.
And there's,
yeah, I don't know the nature of their business, but their business is set up to where all of the rest of their parcels are ag, except for this parcel that they're running this chemical business out of, that's designated as commercial. And, these things are in place, as I said, to manage zoning. So, right now, if somebody wanted to set up a tannery on the other side of your property, there's nothing to stop them from doing so. If it was zoned, then they would have to go through a permitting process and people would have an opportunity to weigh in and say, tannery according to the ordinance should be X far away, et cetera.
I gotta jump through. Just so I can write.
No. It's, so zoning is, well, first of all, it's not new to the county. It's new to 9 of the townships. 3 of the townships in the county have been zoned since the 70s. And again, the purpose of zoning is so that the county can ensure that the development happens in a way that is managed and consistent with the goals and the safety and the well-being of the county and the citizens at large. So it's not to prevent you from doing things, it's just to manage the development.
Clarification. Still, after it's zoned, I think our concern is that not the zoning committee, but the supervisors will see any kind of change to a building as being an opportunity to ask for building permits. I'm not too familiar with Iowa, sorry, but my neighbor in Idaho put a new roof over the shack that had been down there for 30 years. And the next thing he had was the county down there going, you didn't get permits and fees and fines. Cost almost as much as the steel roof. And that's what our concern is once it's done, the supervisors are going to find all sorts of reasons to feed us to death, besides our property taxes.
So first of all, the supervisors don't oversee on a day-to-day basis. They don't oversee zoning. There's a zoning administrator that the supervisors have hired. The zoning administrator, his job is to carry out the responsibilities that are outlined in the zoning ordinance that essentially say, if people want to build a new fill in the blank, and it does not fall under the ag exemption, that the zoning administrator would process that application and issue that permit, just ensuring that the new development is consistent with the setback rules that are in the zoning ordinance. And that whatever is being developed on that property would be consistent with the zone that is assigned to that property. So in David's example a little while ago, if you've got, or this gentleman's example, you've got property that's zoned as ag, and now you want to start a business. Well, that's a different use of the land, and so there's a permitting process. And that permitting process would look to see, is that type of development approved as primary use in that zone? If not, then it would have to go through a rezoning process. That rezoning process, as David Falk pointed out, involves a public hearing where folks can come in and understand what the zone designation change is being anticipated, that people can weigh in for or against for the zoning commission to consider. And then ultimately, the commission makes a recommendation to the supervisors, and the supervisors make their decision. But the supervisors aren't gonna be driving around looking to see if somebody put a new roof on their shed. Like, a new roof on their shed wouldn't fall under the zoning permit anyway. It's
That's
putting
where
a
Cindy
new roof
gets
on
it.
something that's already there.
Yeah, that would be the assessment.
Yep, that's the assessor doing it.
Yeah, they got me that. They didn't assess my place till right after my new roof.
I'm a down to earth kind of girl. So I'm gonna use this as an analogy.
Judy, yeah.
My name is Judy. And I used to live in Danville Township. Danville Township is one of the zoned townships. And say I lived right on the line of Danville and Lincoln. If I wanted to do something, I had to do a permit or go through the zoning to say, is this viable? The person across the road from me, he wanted to put in a bar. He did not have to go through anything because he's not zoned. I guess that's a plain analogy kind of a thing, but I just think zoning is not a bad thing. It's being fair to your neighbors. It's being fair across the whole county, which we want to be, and be transparent. I don't want somebody to say, you know, I live here and I have to do this, but the one that lives right across the road from me does not. So zoning is not trying to infringe on anyone. It's just being fair that somebody cannot from Minnesota or South Dakota come in and say, you know what, they have no zoning. I can build whatever I want to on that 40 acres. That's plain and simple what it is. I don't know. That's just.
Zoning is actually designed to protect the people of the county or an area. From the, like you mentioned, things going up across the street, you don't want. But it has to use. That's what you've been involved with all that, by the casino then too, that's a lot of zoning has to be done out there.
Yes, yep.
And Judy probably won't comment on this, but another example of where zoning is fair is you can't have 3 counties zoned and the rest of the county not zoned. I guess you should count 3 townships other than this thing. But we all know wind turbine. Right? This wind turbine, and this is just me, this is my opinion, but it's really not my opinion, it's fact. Is they came in and told everyone, we'll have a 1,500 foot setback, friendly agreement. Friendly agreement will do that. There are how many turbines? There are 900 feet from your house to. There are how many turbines? Guess what? Because we don't have zoning for them to come in and say, guess what? We have zoning, no turbine can be 1,500 feet in your house. Guess what? They can't do anything about it. It's 900. Do you want to understand how that infringes? It's like having a turbine, but save the people who don't want it 500 feet from their house or 900 feet from their house, or you don't want a bar or strip zone. You can't control it without zoning. And that's what a business coming in, and I can guarantee you, we get phone calls in the assessor's office all the time, don't have zoning, you don't have zoning, and we say, we start feeling embarrassed because big businesses know how to come to our counties and how to work. Zoning is to protect businesses, economic boom, it's to protect, you gotta protect those citizens too by saying, it's not that we don't want it, it's just, don't return my 900 feet from my house. That's what it's about. And my passion is just telling people to understand, if you don't want it, fine, but don't have it enforced on you. And with no zoning, we can't enforce anything. Business is coming into it.
Were they all consignments too?
No, the state regulates those.
And they fall under A1.
Right.
Agriculture.
They're ag and they would be managed via the state law and the matrix.
That gives me a second question. I'm sorry.
Yes, you-
Years ago, they were arguing about local control versus state control of hog confinements. And the state walked in and took over and made uniform code for the state. So if we do go ahead and get some good zoning in North County and good setbacks and improve the wind turbines, if the state decides to go in and make an overall plan, would North County be grandfathered, or would they be subject to the news? If the state decides we're gonna have a uniform wind zoning code throughout the state?
Well, that's a huge hypothetical with a gob of details that go a lot of different directions. I think it would be impossible for us to say, if the county had countywide zoning and the wind ordinance passed by the supervisors, and then if the state came in and said, here's overarching rules for wind development in Iowa, I have no idea, what level of control that potential Iowa law would leave to the county and would not, so.
Well,
It's,
if you had nothing, you'd have.
yeah, right now we have, exactly, right now we have nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not arguing against it, this is an idea, because I know they tossed it around down in Des Moines.
They have, but I believe the Iowa Utilities Board threw it out, said they're not,
This year.
they're not
there's
interested in
I
doing
heard
it.
no buzz of that.
Right.
Of what she's doing.
But also, if you think about it, your state legislatures would be the ones to ask that question, because they would be more
Yeah.
hierarchy than your supervisors.
Yeah.
So that would be a question to the state.
I mean,
Yes. Yep.
That they-
So, excuse me, ladies, ladies.
Sorry.
I'm Merlin Marks. We live at 2081 410th Street, Grafton. We're in one of the nine townships that is not zoned for Worth County. There's a lot of things to address, and we've kind of been having an ad hoc conversation. I'd like to put us back on. I'm trying to make this formal. I oppose the proposal that the zoning commission is bringing forward. And I'm going to try to, in my 5 minutes, give you reasons why. Number one, I was at the supervisor meeting where NICOG actually came in and presented to the county supervisors as to how we could propose zoning for the entire county. And for those of you who may not be aware, I'm not embarrassed by the fact that Worth County only has zoning in 3 townships. There are other counties that are partially zoned in this state. There are other counties that are not zoned in this state. And I've actually, when I used to serve in the legislature, I used to view that as actually a matter of pride that we were able to get along and do what we needed to do, and we did not have to have the zoning restrictions and some of the horror stories that you hear from other counties that do have zoning. And frankly, I doubt whether Worth County would be zoned, even in those 3 townships, had not the federal government preempted and required. Which answers your question as to if the legislature goes with a state requirement on some sort of distance that would preempt any zoning or county ordinance because the state preempts. But back to NICOG actually presented to the county supervisors prior to you getting this handed to you, a process in which to go through adoption steps for zoning. They said, prepare zoning maps for each township, present it to P&Z for discussion. Hopefully that's been done. Having a zoning map for each township is more friendly, user friendly for the general public.
They also said that you should use existing Worth County zoning ordinance, only discuss potential amendments and updates, case by case, after countywide zoning adoption. So why did NIACOG even bring to you this list? I spent a half hour with it tonight, just quickly, and I could poke holes through this. It would make any lawyer love to have a case.
Can
But
I address?
hold on, let me finish first, and then we can go to that. So is zoning actually following the proposals that NIACOG have? It might be an irony, if nothing else. Public will have the ability to send written comments to the county planning and zoning. Bill, I think that's your last name. Lang. I don't think there's anybody in this room that received a letter in time to propose written comments. I think that's back on your shoulders as to what you're gonna have to do. And this gentleman wants to do due diligence to their subject matter. The current zoning process for the three townships in Worth County is over 101 pages. And that might be dated. There's like 7 or 8 pages of definitions alone. So it is on our website in the county. So you'll have some fun reading it, trying to come up with your comments as to how it could potentially affect you. I think, Jeff, at least you're being honest in regard to why is this being proposed? It's being proposed because we had some issues with the Freeborn County Farm. And 2 of the supervisors in particular, frankly, do not want turbines in the county. That's why it's actually being proposed. So they're going to apply countywide zoning.
And you know.
I get my opportunity to say that to me, please respect me. So our planning and zoning folks end up going to countywide zoning because we had an issue with some turbine sites. It's also untrue, Mr. Chair, that we have no requirements for turbines in this county. When I was a county supervisor, when we signed an agreement on underground lines having to be so far away from drainage tile, I was on the county board when we signed an agreement for that particular farm in regard to road reconstruction for damage. I was on the board when we signed an agreement that talked about if a drainage tile is broken, it is in the public drainage system in the county, it will be repaired to get an equal or better standard. So the fact that we have no guidelines or anything that governs construction in the non-zone parts of the county is false. It is false, and I'll repeat it a third time. It is false. It's been a lie, it's been repeated for 2 or 3 years, and it needs to stop. Let's talk specifically about the list that's in front of us tonight. I just went on Beacon and spent about a half hour, about 4:30 to 5 o'clock tonight, looking at some properties. I know of one agricultural property. I talked to the landowner that is being zoned industrial. He just got the letter today. I apologize.
No, that's just,
I'll do it real quick. He cannot be here tonight to address because he's out of state and he couldn't get some written comments. Also, I'll give you one final example of the humor of this. There are 2 scrap iron places just outside of Kensett, Iowa. They're both currently listed for tax purposes as commercial. One, under this particular proposal, becomes heavy industrial. The other, by default, becomes agricultural. So you think that creates a fair playing field for these two scrap metal places in Worth County? Your list is really, really, really bad.
Merlin, let me know those 2 and I'll explain it to you, okay?
so,
It's not my job. to point
excuse me.
it out.
So,
Okay, you had a question.
yes, so, a couple of points. One, one of the first things that you had mentioned that I wanted to comment on was you talked about NICOG's recommended process and not to change the zoning until after zoning would be extended to the townships. What NICOG was referring to is, this isn't the whole zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance is a part of this binder. So the zoning ordinance is this. So to Merlin's point, it's a fair number of pages. What they were saying is don't make changes to the ordinance. The ordinance is in place today, and the ordinance applies to the 3 townships of Heartland, Danville, and Brookfield. They're saying that leave the ordinance text alone. If you're going to extend zoning to the other 9 townships, you have to apply zone designations. The zone designations are as described in the ordinance. And so that's what we've done, is said, okay, we're gonna leave the text alone, but the land has to have a zone designation. So our plan would be to designate everything Ag A1, except for those properties that are clearly not. And again, part of the public hearing and what we've asked for is for people to identify if there are properties that need to be added to the list that would not be Ag. And this only applies to the unincorporated areas of the township. So if it falls inside the city limits, or in the case of Manly, their 2-mile extraterritorial zone that extends outside their county, outside their city limits, that doesn't apply in county zone. So we are following that. We've not made any changes. And we've identified things that we think should be changed in the text. But we've said, that's what's in place today, leave it. Let's look at just assigning the zoning, then circle back around. The supervisors have already indicated that if they decide to extend zoning to the rest of the townships, they're gonna redo the commission. And so the new commission would then take up whatever changes are necessary.
So does that mean from a tax purpose, once again, tax and zoning are somewhat separate?
They are,
So Cindy has we have a whole bunch of properties in this county that are what you would, they're taxed as Ag residential. They're not taxed as Ag dwelling, they're taxed as Ag residential. Is it the intent of the zoning commission that even though they're not filing a Schedule F, because that's how it's used for tax purposes?
They have nothing, and let me clarify this, this is important, you guys need to understand. I don't care what they zone for. I don't care, they can say for industrial, principal use, if it's Ag, I'm gonna use Ag, that's your value, that's your tax.
So from a zoning
It
perspective,
does not matter what they zone.
so from a zoning perspective, is the zoning commission's intent to keep an Ag residential property not, it's not a farm for tax purposes, you're still gonna keep them agricultural?
right now, that would be our intent. Now, there are rules in the zoning ordinance that says if I have, let's say I've got 20 acres and I'm actually farming 15 of those 20 acres. And I've got a high CSR rating. Right now, the rules in the zoning ordinance would say I can't build a residence on there because it's less than 35 acres and a majority of it is a high CSR. But at the same time, if it's zoned as Ag, a principal dwelling is exempt from zoning regulations, so I could build a house on it.
So we got an example, I'll use a personal example. We had a 40 in Union Township this last year. In February, we were approached by somebody that wanted to buy 5 acres to build a house on. We sold that to them.
Yep,
I know in Sarasota County, that would have at least had to have gone before zoning or variance board.
yeah, well,
Is that how it works
yeah,
in 3
in
townships
here,
right now?
it would be R1 zone designation, because it's
So
not
that
truly
action would have
agriculture.
had to have come before you folks,
Yeah,
had we had county zoning at the time.
right, it would have been changed to a R1.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to comment on, that you made mention 3 times about the rules in place for the turbines. You're absolutely right that once a turbine company has come into the county and makes an agreement with the supervisors, that agreement does stipulate certain rules.
Right.
That's after the fact. the zoning ordinance and the wind ordinance predefines rules. And even Mark Crowell from Invenergy has said, when they go into places, he prefers to go into a place that has rules up front as opposed to trying to make rules after the fact. He said it's a whole lot cleaner if they know what the rules of the game are when they go in. The zoning and the wind ordinance would be the rules. Some of these things, and those rules would still require these agreements between the wind company and the county supervisors. But you may recall with the Invenergy, the supervisors in Invenergy worked for, it had to be 6 months or better, trying to come up with an agreement on a set of rules, and they weren't able to do so. Today, it is a fact. There are no rules in place that govern wind development that would occur tomorrow, next week, or next month, or next year. There were rules in place for a particular development once it was agreed that that development was going to happen. And so this is just putting rules up front that everybody understands.
You are correct. I appreciate your time.
I did want to address one thing.
Sure.
The list is not quite correct. The perfect example is the Via Field site right on the north side of Grafton. On our list that we approved, it's on there. On this list, it's not. And if I remember right, both junkyards are also on there.
Yeah,
as
I'm not sure
industrial.
what happened to that.
So we're not quite sure with the printing company or whatever. So if there are, I know at least those two properties that didn't make the list that are definitely, we want to zone them. And it goes back to like Dave, we want Dave to come, if he's going to be mining that piece of ground for the next 20 years, we want to zone it as light industrial to begin with. We don't want to come through and go back and forth and back and forth. But at the same point, if I say his ground is going to be industrial and they don't want it as industrial, how do you go back? It was easier for us to say A1 everything. So the list is a little bit wrong, and I wish it was more correct. But there isn't that much.
Right. And again, the whole purpose of this, getting this list out and asking for comment is to identify these kinds of things that need to be addressed. Because we do have additional work that we have to do before we give our recommendations to the supervisors.
So agricultural properties that are listed on this list is a new zone. If the farmer does not want them changed, would suggest that will you
So-
change some of these if they're mistakes?
Well, so once again, if properties on this list, and this is only a list of things that are identified as that would be non-ag zone. And what I think you're saying is there's one or more parcels on this list that the landowner says that should not be non-ag, it should be ag. Tell us, we want to know what that is and why it should be ag when it looks like, when you look at the land on GIS and so on, that it's being used for other purposes.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
I'm Jim Roseberg, 9323 420th, Grafton, Iowa. Questions pertaining to properties existing on,
With what?
there with properties with existing turbines on them
Okay,
that may not meet the code that the zoning people could come up with. Will that affect our zoning if this goes into effect?
wouldn't affect it whatsoever. So,
Okay,
so presumably, the property that you're describing is farmland with some turbines on it. Our plan right now would be to classify that land as ag. And the fact that there's a turbine on there has no bearing whatsoever
I
from a zoning perspective.
I read somewhere that if there was something that was existing, that it would be grandfathered in, but it would not be able to expand, I think is the terminology.
Yeah, so in that example, so first of all, let me say that commercial wind turbines are permitted use in ag zone areas. So the fact that there's a turbine on there, is just a fact. There's a turbine on there. And it was, it doesn't fall into that non-conforming aspect because it's a permitted use in the ag zone.
For
Now,
example,
where-
it's a building on leased land, that's why.
Yeah, now where there could be some things that would come up isn't from a zoning perspective, but it's from the draft wind ordinance. I don't know if you were involved in the public hearings last year with the wind ordinance, but the wind ordinance does talk about the upgrades of existing turbines. So if it changes the physical footprint, so if they want to make it another 200 feet taller or blades another 150 feet longer, that would have to go through a new permitting process. But if all they're doing is adding, just putting new equipment inside the nacelle or replacing some blades with the same size blades, that's just maintenance.
Well, that leads me to the next question, then, we have contracts that will expire. When it's time to renew the contract, are we able to renew those contracts?
Yeah,
Won't be a problem with the zoning.
It's existing.
Yeah.
Anything pre-existing. And that goes back to Dave, you're mining this much, he can keep mining until he gets to that point of, then he's got to come to the zone and get it rezoned. His point is, zone the whole 40 as industrial, I'm farming 30 acres, I'm eventually gonna get there. So tell us that, because we don't know, is there something under the other 30 or is it all good farm ground? So it's, yeah, anything existing continues on as its purpose.
Just one more simple question. Will I be required to get a permit if I want to add on to my house or build a garage or something like that on my property?
well, first of all, you would have to ask the question, does it fall under the ag exemption? If it falls under the ag exemption, the answer is no. If it does not fall under the ag exemption, then yes, to put a new garage in or to expand a structure, you would have to get a building permit. The building permit process would be describing to the zoning administrator, and he's got a form for all of this, what the size of the structure is and so on, and what the setbacks are to make certain that it's off of the county easements and off of the neighbor's property line a certain distance and things of that nature. And as long as it meets those rules, then the permit is issued.
What is the cost of it?
I don't think that the county has changed the fees since 2012. Let me look real quick. And these are posted online. There it is. So, for buildings, so, it goes in tranches from $0 to $4,999 is $20. And then there's some more steps. $30,000 to $50,000 is $75 permit. 75,000 to 99,000 is $150. over $500,000 project would be a $500 permit. Yes.
Who is the zoning administrator and why is he here?
Well, I can't answer why he's not here. The zoning administrator is Matt Duvet. He's also the zoning administrator in Winnebago County. He was supposed to be here. He acts as the secretary for the zoning commission. The zoning commission are 5 members that are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. So it's David, Justin, myself, Todd Rocco, and Dana Thomas. And then Matt Duvet acts as secretary for the commission. He also acts as secretary for the Board of Adjustment, which is a different set of 5 people that are appointed by the
He gets
supervisor.
paid for his job, doesn't he?
Yes.
Probably didn't get his letter.
Sue Logan, I live in Harvard Township. In the zoning township, and I have watched every zoning commission meeting, every supervisor meeting for the last couple of years. And I want to thank Jeff and the commission. These guys have worked really, really hard over the last couple of years. Lots and lots of hours, a lot of time to work on this after being directed by the supervisors to do so. But I just want to say, I feel lucky to be in a zoning township. I feel like it is in my best interest to have zoning. We learn, so we follow the A1 category. We have to put up a house, we put up this, we put up a shed. We didn't have to ask anyone for permission to do it. We didn't tell them how much it was going to cost. It didn't matter because it was A. I can guarantee you that after we did those projects, the assessor made it out to our place very quickly, make sure that we were accessible really for our renters. But it also has been able to keep some businesses, that need to be managed under control. For example, I have neighbors that put up a dog kennel. It didn't affect me personally, I didn't care, I don't think anybody really complained about it. They had to put up their dog kennel, they probably paid a $20 fee and got the permit to do so. It was a very easy process. But it's still, we knew it was happening, we were aware of it, and we could plan accordingly too. I think of a lot of other things that if you don't know your neighbors doing this, and you want to do this, you know, someone wants to put up a racetrack here, if you want to have a non-say, you know, a center where you can come and chill, you got racetrack over here, you're building the same time, you know, they're building, they know what they're building, someone's not going to happen. So it just lets you know what's happening with your neighbors. It truly is for the benefit of everyone involved.
I'm curious, how did you know about the contractor? Did they get a hold of you and tell you that, or is it because you were watching?
So things have to be posted. I watch all of the meetings and all that stuff. Things have to be notified, if something's gonna happen. A lot of the ordinance, if you live in a certain area of that, put a letter in the comment of the zoning board, if you comment. Another thing people are scared of is that the council has so much control. You know where I live, you know where that dog kennel is, you know the people there probably have 20 abandoned dogs. No one's ever made them get rid of those cars. The government, the county is not in there saying, you can't have those cars, you're done. You know, that's not what's happening. I don't even think there's anything going about this to the business is coming in. The protection. As far as the wind turbine, I really think when you I would not. Every Sunday morning, matter of fact, when my mother-in-law on her house every Sunday morning, they gave a map, they showed her acreage, the whole acreage, flicker effect, every Sunday morning. Without regulations, that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen. So we have to be able to come to those meetings and say, hey, this is what I don't like it, this is how it's going to impact me, you know, and let's figure this out. I thank the board.
Anybody else have comments, questions?
I do have just a question, because, and this is me, I really don't know, I want to understand how this works. Because like you go to a city and they have permits, you have to go to a permit if you're in a city. Right now, if you're not ag, you're not commercial, you're not industrial, we call you as rural res, which really is res in the city.
Yep.
At this point in time, rural res doesn't have to do a permit. Are you saying in this new zoning, rural res will have to do a permit just like you do have to when you're in the city because you're not ag?
Yes.
Okay, that's just one on clarify. That's how I thought it was gonna be, but. Okay. So basically, you're treating rural res because they don't have ag, the same as suburban res because they're not ag.
Right.
You should have a permit.
Yeah, it's like my property, I've got 10 acres, there's 3 of it in crop, I lease that out.
Yeah.
But I've
You're
only
not-
got 10 acres, so
you're
it
not-
doesn't qualify as ag, so it would be rural residential, so anything I would do would require. a
So
permit.
really, you can look at res as it doesn't matter if it's out in the country, it's res. Town, it's res, both res, it's res really in the county that's not ag.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm, thank you.
Can I ask you to clarify that once again?
You'll
When
do a better
I
job.
asked you the question about ag residential property, you said they would be considered as ag.
Ag res is
Ag,
different.
ag residential, yeah, what it boils down to is that parcel or collection of parcels, is it actually farmland? Is that landowner producing agriculture? The primary residence, so if you're producing agriculture on your N number of acres, great, 35 or more acres, it's ag. There's rules that are in the zoning ordinance right now that say, my property as an example, it's 10 acres. 3 of it are ag, so it's not a majority being used for agricultural purposes. I'm not producing agriculture, I lease it out. So my dwelling, if I want to build a new house, I would have to get a permit. I want to build a garage, I want to build a machine shed, I would have to get permits. That would be rural residential, not ag.
Thank you.
Did that make sense?
Yes.
Because it really is.
It sounds different. That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Well, I was asking about the Schedule F, because for instance, if Cindy's gonna tax something and list it on taxation purposes as ag residential, what that property owner needs to do as one of the steps of saying, no, it's ag, is they'll bring in a Schedule F and they'll show it to her.
well, the real
And they'll say,
terminology.
I actually farm, and it should be taxed as agricultural dwelling, not ag residential.
And the terminology that you can have, that we can communicate about this is ag dwelling. You have a dwelling unit, right? It's ag dwelling. If it's ag dwelling, you're ag. So it doesn't pertain, but if you're rural res, that means you're not ag. So that's the different classification.
And she's got me on tax rolls as rural residential.
Actually, it's listed as ag residential. I looked it up this afternoon.
Oh,
Well, it's- our 2 different systems say, I can explain that to you, Tyler, depends on the data, so. we'll figure it out.
And that may be some of the stuff that needs cleaned up in the text of the ordinance.
But there again, zoning is not assessing,
Correct.
two separate things.
Well, so I assume that I'm all agricultural. But in reality, I got woods, river, and right of way and garbage through there. And I've also got, buffers for the river, and we've got set asides, CR. And so I assume that still all falls under.
You have to look at the whole of the property, it would be ag.
You're over 35 acres and you farm.
Yeah, so then I have to really start looking when it comes to dividing out 35 acres.
Yeah, the county has a whole separate ordinance on subdivision that goes into that stuff. If you're looking at subdividing your property.
I live in Danville Township and had damage when the tornado was straight line winds, whatever we had in December. I'm replacing a building under the zone, would I have to get a permit to replace that building? I am not agriculture at all, I am a, I have an
Right. Yeah, you're rebuilding a structure that was damaged as a result, and so long as you're not changing the footprint, no.
It's all the same size, maybe a foot or two one way. I can't put it like it was.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying that whether it's zone, we have, and I'm at Danville, so we have zoning,
Yes,
so I do not need a permit in order to replace my building.
right, yeah. The safe way to approach that would be to file that, that application with the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator should look at that and see that you're rebuilding a pre-existing structure that was damaged. You're not building something new, so they would just issue a certificate of compliance in lieu of building permit. Certificate of compliance says you can build what you're planning to build.
So I would
And
have
there
to
wouldn't,
roll a map,
yes,
is that correct?
yep. That would be the appropriate way to do it.
And that won't change whether, because we're already zoned.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
There's a very nice flow chart on the website of the Worth County website for the zoning commission that takes you through the steps of, do I need a permit, or am I, exempt from the permit? Simple field chart, yes or no to it, and it takes you to the next step, it tells you if you do or don't need a permit. Really.
Is there anything on the ordinance that's Todd?
Just,
Okay, I was just wondering if there was anybody online for questions, so.
So Todd, Rocco online, have you got any questions or comments for folks? Todd Rocco is one of our other zoning administrators. He's online right now instead of in the chair.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
No, right now I don't have any questions. I just want to make sure that people understand that zoning is there to protect everybody equally across the county.
anybody else have questions or comments? Again, if you have, and I know a couple of you had indicated that you do have some things that you think that should be different than what's on the list for zoning assignments, if you could get that stuff to us in the next week, would be ideal. We have our next meeting scheduled for next Wednesday. So if we could get it before that, that would be ideal. You could send that to via email to zoning@worthcounty.org.gov.org. worthcounty.org, so zoning@worthcounty.org, and we'll get it. Otherwise, if there are no further comments, we will close the public comment period. Anything else from the zoning commission?
I got something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Come on up.
I think you need to do something a lot better to take care of your communications, this letter. I got about 5 minutes.
I know, I don't know if you were here.
You know, there's no excuse for that.
I know, I don't know if you were here at the beginning or not, but we gave the letter to the company that was supposed to print everything and stuff the envelopes. We gave it to them on March 8th. They told us it went to the post office on March 16th. And we did it that way to make certain that it went out so that people could get it by last week. I have no explanation for why people didn't get it until yesterday and today.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no excuse for that. If I would have had a question that I need to have anybody yesterday, they can get a letter to me.
I understand.
Well, I think we need a lot better communication. If you gotta get somebody that can't do it, you better get them.
Well, we'll be getting a hold of the company that did it to find out what happened, and we certainly won't be using them again. And again, we also had the notices in the paper, which fortunately were timely. They were in last week and again 2 weeks ago. But yeah, I apologize for the letters. I don't know what happened. They assured me that they went to the post office on March 16th.
So actually, the letter said that they have to get by the 28th, but we have more time, so actually nothing's really decided here tonight, we just got people.
It's just input. That tonight is just getting input from people. Yes. Yes, yep.
What is the time and place for this Wednesday meeting and what is on the agenda?
So the time and place, so we usually have our zoning commission meetings 7 o'clock on Wednesday evenings. I think it's next Wednesday, isn't it? Yes, so it'd be April 6th at 7 PM. The agenda is posted on the bulletin board at the courthouse. It'll be there by Monday morning, March 4th. And it's also posted online on the county website Monday morning on March 4th. And the agenda, both at the bulletin board and online, has the Zoom meeting information. Because generally, all the zoning commission lives in different parts of the county. So usually we have our meeting via Zoom. So it's the online meeting. And we'll have to discuss if next week's meeting is going to be in person or Zoom, but we always have a Zoom link on there so people can join it online, if we're not having them in person.
Just a little clarification for everyone, unless you are on the agenda, you will not be able to participate in the meeting, you only get to watch it.
That's correct.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
First of all, as important as this is, Zoom meetings should start cutting. We need to go to the live meetings. The pandemic is over. Let's get back to making government accessible to the citizens of the county. Secondly, Wednesday nights during Lent presents a real problem for a lot of people that wish to go to church. Just a comment to take note of.
Other comments? Zoning commission members?
Move to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.